There is your top 10 in the 2021 NFL Draft. The Jaguars, air quotes, earned the number one overall pick. They did it the old-fashioned way. They lost 15 games in a row. They now have dibs on the man who declared yesterday, Chris, that he's entering the draft.
Oh, yeah.
Quarterback Trevor Lawrence.
You
Clearly
okay?
the best prospect.
You choking over there?
Yeah, you know.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what I'm choking on.
Sometimes, that
all
happens. That's all right.
I'm getting emotional about the prospect of the Jaguars actually having a quarterback who was put on earth to throw a football.
You're funny.
They didn't have one for a while. When they had the third overall pick, they took Blake Bortles, and we know how that worked out. Trevor Lawrence in a much better position to thrive in Jacksonville. Now the question becomes, who will the coach be? Who will the GM be? And is this the guy that new regime wants? We assume it will be because Lawrence is so widely regarded as a top prospect. But if Urban Meyer gets that job,
I know.
I can't rule out a flip-flop with the Jets. Let the Jets get the number one pick up some draft capital in return, and then take Justin Fields. Urban Meyer recruited Justin Fields to Ohio State. How could you rule that out if indeed Meyer gets that job?
I don't think that's a crazy thought. I don't, not at all. And especially, listen, if you have Fields anywhere close to Trevor Lawrence in your evaluation process, it doesn't even have to be, he's better than him. But hey, we have him as, equal grades or maybe a notch below, but we still think our grade says that he's a year one starter, and by year 3 and 4, he could be a Pro Bowl type player, then you do think about making that type of move. There's no doubt. If you feel that confident that guy can run the system with, you want to run as a head coach and all of that, then that is certainly a possibility. I don't know if that's going to happen. Listen, I think Justin Fields certainly in the conversation with Trevor Lawrence. My, TV scouting would say I would still say Trevor Lawrence is clearly the number one guy in my opinion. Fields has a lot of things to like. There's no doubt about it. But really reminds me of a little bit more of a athletic version of a Dak Prescott on the field. That's what I kind of look at him like. That's pretty damn good quarterback if you ask me. I like that. But I think Trevor Lawrence has a chance to be, a superstar in his own right, like a Justin Herbert, and come in and do what he did this year too. So it's going to be interesting conversation how it plays out. The Urban Meyer thing, to your point, Mike, is very intriguing just to see, could it add that wrinkle? And then, of course, it's going to add more speculation and movement there towards the top of the draft, which could be, fun during the offseason too.
One thing we know about the NFL, and specifically the scouting process in advance of the draft, it is extremely inexact, and there are evaluators who become smitten by great performances on big college stages because they try to draw the line between stepping up in that moment and stepping up week in and week out when the competition level is at its highest at the NFL. And that's why the Justin Fields performance last Friday night at a minimum gives the Jaguars something to think about. And I know there are plenty of people who will wag their fingers and say, no, Trevor Lawrence is clearly number one. Okay, he still may be number one, but Justin Fields whooped his butt head-to-head. And there will be evaluators who look at that and say, in that moment, in that spot, one guy stepped up and the other guy stepped off.
Sure.
And it hurts Trevor Lawrence potentially, and it helps Justin Fields potentially. Not that it ultimately should matter, but we know from experience that it does influence people who are looking for folks who will perform on big stages.
Sure. You're right. There is going to be, I think, a certain amount of NFL evaluators who will become smitten with that performance and try to justify maybe other, flaws you've seen in the game and just go, well, yeah, but look at what I saw there. And I understand that. Listen, part of evaluating a football player is looking at his actual absolute best and going, wait, okay, that's his best. Can he consistently do that? And I think that question is out there with Justin Fields. I think he's very capable of maybe being that guy. There's a little bit of one mechanical flaw I don't like about Justin Fields throwing that bothers me a little, but I haven't got the deep dive and really, really study these guys yet, Mike. Fields has a little bit of this. He leads with his elbow to throw, and that can lead to the ball going all over the place. You're not really using your body. It becomes a little bit too much of an arm throw. That's what he does. It's a little bit like Carson Wentz, who also has some accuracy issues at times, because it starts like this instead of where you see a Brady where the whole body goes. You and me have done that before when we were at the Super Bowl a few years ago. Rodgers, Brady, they use the torque of their body, and that's just a flaw. I don't mean to get so in the weeds here with football talk, but it's something to watch for as we go through this process. But either way, both of these guys are really good football players.
Something else to watch for is whether or not Trevor Lawrence will welcome going to Jacksonville. And look, Jaguars fans, and I know it's been a rough year for you, but let's face it, to the extent that one or more than one home games every year will be played in London, you need to have guys who are willing to sign on for that. And the draft makes them sign on for it whether they want to or not, but Trevor Lawrence has far more leverage than a sixth-round pick would have. If Trevor Lawrence looks at the lay of the land and wonders, as the NFL continues to grow its schedule, how many times per year am I going to be playing in London when I really don't want to play in London, or my fiance isn't all that interested in all these trips to London? Now, maybe they are, but that's another dynamic to this as well. It could be an attraction, or it could be something that makes him recoil, along with the fact that the team has a history of not being very good, and we need to see who the coach and the GM will be. I think Trevor Lawrence can't make any final decisions about whether or not he will try to engineer a way out of Jacksonville until he knows what he's getting into in Jacksonville.
Sure.
And a lot of that will be determined in the coming days and weeks, and he has plenty of time. If he's going to try to engineer something behind the scenes, he has until late April to pull that off, Chris.
Yeah, he does. That's right. And then, it's early stages. He just will wait, see who the head coach is, what direction they're going to go as a football team, But I mean, again, just like we talked about a while ago with the New York Jets, and when you really want to go there and do that, the Jaguars are in a bad state. We know that, but there's some young talent. There's some young talent on the offensive side of the ball where I do think like Trevor Lawrence could go in there and move the ball, and they can make plays right away. I do. I mean, he could take the league by storm that way on the offensive side of the ball, like Herbert did this year, And I would think he would almost relish the opportunity. Jacksonville, who's been mediocre at best throughout their livelihood in the NFL, their existence since the 90s, he might appeal. There's two things I would think will go in Jacksonville's favor. The fact that of where they are. He grew up in Georgia. It's not far away. He knows that region. His family's going to be very accessible for them to go there and do that. And then the England thing, that's a real question. His name is Lawrence. That's a nice English last name. And he might relish the fact of like, hey, I can be a global superstar playing on this team. I can go over there twice a year, dominate on really a world stage a little bit there, and all of a sudden I'm the most global guy in the sport. I would find that kind of appealing if I was, coming out and relish that opportunity.
Oh, you're absolutely right. We just don't know what he feels about it yet, and that's a factor to keep an eye on. And look, I like the idea of having that opportunity to go create a legacy with a team that has none.
Yeah.
Most of the teams out there have something they can point to in the rearview mirror where they've got great players who did this. They got to a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl. Jaguars have gotten to an AFC championship game and no farther. They've been around for 25 years now, and they've never been to a Super Bowl, and Lawrence could be the guy who gets him there, and that could be the thing that attracts him.
Right.
Ultimately go to Jacksonville. Job number one, though, and it's been very quiet coming out of Jacksonville. What are they going to do at coach? Is it going to be Urban Meyer? Is it going to be someone else?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.